The Sonoran Desert burns like an open furnace at midday. Waves of heat distort the horizon, transforming the landscape into a shimmering mirage. Here on the Arizona-Mexico border, the temperature climbs to 130 degrees Celsius by noon, punishing anything that dares to move beneath the merciless sun. Maya Reyes stands motionless on a rocky outcrop. Her silhouette darkened against the blazing sky, has the rigid posture of someone who has trained herself never to show weakness. Even alone, she maintains discipline. Through high-powered binoculars, she scans the desolate terrain. Her eyes, dark as obsidian, miss nothing. Each crevice, each shadow, each disturbance in the sand is cataloged with military precision. Sector 7 to base. Nothing to report in Quadrant 4. Her voice is flat and motionless. The radio crackles. Copy that, Reyes. Return to base. Maya lowers the binoculars, revealing a face weathered not just by sun, but by something deeper. A thin scar traces her right cheekbone, a memento from another desert, another war. She moves with deliberate efficiency, packing her gear. No wasted motion, no hesitation. The practiced routine of someone who has learned that survival depends on the details. As she descends the ridge toward her patrol vehicle, something catches her eye. A flash of movement behind a distant mesa. She freezes, hand instinctively moving to her sidearm. For several heartbeats, she waits. Nothing. Then, like a ghost materializing from the heat waves, a silver-gray horse appears at the mesa's edge. Its muscular frame stands in sharp relief against the red rock. Even from this distance, Maya can see the unmistakable scar running along its flank. The horse watches, her ears forward, intent and unafraid. A memory flickers across Maya's mind. Another horse, another desert. Afghanistan. The thunder of hooves. A woman's laugh, so like her own. Then darkness. Maya blinks and the moment shatters. She forces the memory down, locking it away with practiced discipline. The horse remains, its gaze unnervingly direct. Then with a toss of its mane, it turns and vanishes into the heat haze. Maya's radio crackles again. Reyes, confirm return to base. She stares at the empty space where the horse stood. Confirmed. En route. Sector 7 Border Patrol Station squats like a concrete fortress in the desert's vastness. Solar panels glint atop metal roofs, gathering what little energy they can from the sun that seeks to destroy everything beneath it. Inside, the air conditioning battles, the heat creating a perpetual hum that underscores every conversation. The main operations room pulses with subdued activity. Agents at monitors, technicians bent over equipment, the soft ping of incoming data. Maya enters, immediately noticed yet deliberately ignored by most. She's been stationed here 8 months but remains an outsider by choice. Her reputation precedes her, decorated Special Forces operative, sole survivor of a classified operation gone wrong, now serving in this remote outpost like someone doing penance. She moves to her workstation, downloads the day's surveillance footage, and begins her report. The routine is a comfort. Data analysis, facts. No emotions to process, no connections to maintain. Reyes! The voice is firm, authoritative. Lieutenant Rodriguez stands in the doorway of his office. 50-something with silver-streaked hair and the leathery complexion of someone who has spent decades in the desert sun. His expression reveals nothing. Sir, Maya acknowledges, rising. My office. Cipriano. Rodriguez's office is sparse. Government-issue furniture maps of the border region on the walls. A small cactus on the windowsill that seems to be the only personal touch. Heard you spotted something today, he says, settling behind his desk. Maya's expression doesn't change. Just a wild horse, sir. Nothing significant. Silver-gray scar on its flank. This catches her attention. Yes, sir. Rodriguez nods slowly. Local legend. They call it the storm horse. Been spotted for years, usually before something significant happens. Superstitious nonsense, but the locals insist it's some kind of guardian spirit. Maya says nothing, waiting for the point. I'm assigning you to Muerte Canyon tomorrow. Solo patrol. The request is unusual. Muerte Canyon, Death Canyon in English, is notorious terrain. Deep ravines, unstable slopes, minimal radio contact. Protocol requires paired patrols in such dangerous areas. Unusual movement has been detected there, Rodriguez continues. Possibly smugglers establishing a new route. I need someone with your expertise to check it out. Why solo, sir? Rodriguez meets her gaze steadily. Resources are stretched thin. And frankly, you work better alone, don't you, Reyes? There's something in his tone, a challenge or perhaps something else. Maya can't quite place it, but years of service have taught her to recognize when something doesn't align. 600 tomorrow, Rodriguez says, already turning to his computer. Full equipment load. Take enough supplies for 48 hours if necessary. Yes, sir. As Maya turns to leave, Rodriguez adds, and Reyes, keep your eyes open out there. The desert, it doesn't forgive mistakes. The cafeteria is half empty at dinner time. Maya sits alone, mechanically consuming calories her body needs without tasting what she eats. Her mind is elsewhere, reviewing maps of Muerte Canyon, planning equipment, analyzing Rodriguez's unusual orders. A tray slides onto the table opposite her. Maya looks up surprised and not entirely pleased at the interruption. Elena Vasquez smiles apologetically. Mind if I join you? Before Maya can answer, Elena sits. 26 with quick, intelligent eyes and the energetic demeanor of someone fresh from training, she's the station's newest intelligence analyst. I heard Rodriguez is sending you to Muerte Canyon, Elena says, lowering her voice. Solo patrol. That's against protocol. Maya studies her, wondering about the source of this information and Elena's interest in it. Sometimes protocols need flexibility. Elena leans forward, earnestness radiating from her. I've been tracking anomalies in our surveillance data. There's something weird about that area. Data packets going missing, camera feeds with unexplained interference. Equipment fails in the desert, Maya replies flatly. Heat dust time. Not like this. Elena pulls out a small tablet, slides it across the table. Look. Maya glances down at a map display showing signal disruption patterns across their jurisdiction. Muerte Canyon shows a concentrated cluster of failures and anomalies. Could be natural interference. The geography there? I thought that too, Elena interrupts. But I overlaid historical data. These disruptions only started 3 months ago, and they form a pattern. She traces a finger along what looks like a path through the canyon. Maya feels a prickle of awareness. This kind of analysis is exactly what she would have done in her previous role. Elena is good, perhaps too good for a remote station like Sector 7. Why are you showing me this? Elena hesitates, then says quietly, my father was Border Patrol, disappeared near Muerte Canyon 5 years ago. Official report says he got lost, died of exposure, but he'd patrolled that area for 15 years. He wouldn't just get lost. Maya's expression remains neutral, but her assessment of Elena shifts. Personal motivation, emotional investment, potentially compromising objectivity, but also potentially useful. I've been requesting this assignment for months, Elena continues. Rodriguez always denied it. Then suddenly he sends you, alone. The implication hangs in the air. Be careful what you're suggesting, Maya says, her voice low. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just sharing data. Elena stands, leaving the tablet. The patterns don't lie. Something's happening out there, and for some reason Rodriguez wants you to find it. Alone. Shion. She walks away, leaving Maya with the tablet and an unsettled feeling that has nothing to do with the tasteless food. In her Spartan quarters that night, Maya methodically prepares her equipment. Extra water, emergency beacon, weapon check, standard procedure executed with precision. Her hands move automatically while her mind processes the day's information. Rodriguez's unusual orders. Elena's data. The silver horse watching her from the mesa. From her pocket, she takes a small metal object, a misshapen bullet extracted from a body. Not her body. She turns it in her fingers, feeling its weight before placing it carefully on the small shelf beside her bed. A reminder. A penance. Maya pulls out the maps of Muerte Canyon, studying the terrain. Her years in special forces taught her to trust instinct as much as intelligence, and right now both are sending warning signals. A knock at her door interrupts her concentration. Marcus Webb stands in the hallway, awkward on his prosthetic leg. The station's tech specialist shifts his weight, clearly uncomfortable. Sorry to disturb you, he says, voice low. Heard about your assignment tomorrow. Maya waits, saying nothing. I brought you this. He hands her a small device no larger than a coin. It's an emergency transponder, off-network. If you get in trouble and can't use standard comms. Maya studies the device, then Marcus. His earnest face reveals genuine concern, but something else too. Knowledge, perhaps, or fear. Why would I need this? Marcus glances down the empty hallway. Just, the equipment in Muerte Canyon has been unreliable lately. Thought this might help. Elena's been talking to you. He nods reluctantly. She's good at her job, sees patterns others miss. And what do you see, Marcus? He meets her gaze directly for the first time. Code that shouldn't be there. System access at odd hours. Small things, but he shrugs. In our line of work, small things can get people killed. Maya takes the transponder, weighing it in her palm. Why are you giving me this? A flash of something, pain, regret, crosses his face. I was deployed too. Different desert, same war. Lost my leg, but some of my unit lost everything. Nobody warned them. His voice hardens. I don't want that happening here. After he leaves, Maya examines the transponder. It's military grade, not standard border patrol issue. The kind of equipment her special forces unit would have used. She tucks it into a hidden pocket of her gear. Preparation isn't paranoia when the stakes are survival. Dawn breaks over the desert in a blaze of crimson and gold. Maya drives her patrol vehicle toward Muerte Canyon, the rising sun at her back casting long shadows ahead. The radio crackles with the morning check-in. Maya provides her status and location, receiving acknowledgement from the base. Communications are clear now, but she knows that will change once she enters the canyon's depths. As she drives, her mind drifts to Afghanistan. Not to the final mission. She never allows herself to go there. But to earlier days, training exercises with the horseback units. Nina laughing as she mastered a particularly difficult maneuver on her mount, a silver-gray stallion with intelligent eyes. The memory is so vivid that Maya almost misses the metallic glint in the rocks ahead. She slows, then stops the vehicle. Carefully, she approaches on foot. Tucked into a crevice is a small device, matte black, professionally camouflaged. Not cartel equipment, not the crude sensors used by smugglers. This is advanced technology, the kind used by her own government. Maya photographs it without touching it, then surveys the area. Her trained eye spots another device about 50 yards away, then another. They form a perimeter, an electronic fence. Around what she returns to her vehicle and continues deeper into the canyon, senses heightened awareness expanding. The walls rise higher on either side, creating shadows despite the climbing sun. Radio static increases as expected. 2 hours into the patrol, Maya reaches a fork in the canyon. Her orders indicate she should take the left path deeper into the narrowest section. She hesitates, reviewing the map. Something moves in her peripheral vision. She turns sharply. The silver horse stands on a ledge above the right fork, watching her with unnerving stillness. Maya stares back, heart suddenly pounding. There's something about the animal's posture, the way it holds its head, the intent focus of its gaze, that seems impossible, improbable. Nina! The name escapes her lips before she can stop it, a whisper so soft even she barely hears it. The horse tosses its head, then turns and disappears down the right-hand path. Maya remains frozen, rationality battling with something deeper, more instinctive. Following the horse means disobeying direct orders. Following her orders means ignoring what every combat instinct is telling her. Decision made, she turns the vehicle toward the right fork. The path narrows quickly, forcing her to abandon the vehicle and continue on foot. The canyon walls press closer, casting deep shadows despite the climbing sun. Radio communication is now completely lost as expected. Maya moves with practiced stealth, every sense alert. The silver horse is nowhere to be seen, but ahead the canyon widens into a small clearing. She flattens against the rock wall, peering carefully around the edge. The clearing contains evidence of recent activity. Boot prints, cigarette butts, empty water bottles. But it's the rock face on the far side that captures her attention. A section of it appears different. The coloration slightly off the texture, inconsistent with the surrounding stone. A camouflaged entrance. Maya checks her weapon, then moves forward in a crouch. Before she can reach the suspicious rock face, a voice behind her breaks the silence. That's far enough, Agent Reyes. She spins, weapon raised. Three men stand blocking the path back. Military posture, American accents, non-standard tactical gear without insignia. Identify yourselves, Maya demands, weapon steady. The leader steps forward. That's not important. What matters is you're in a restricted area without authorization. I'm Border Patrol on official patrol. This entire area is under our jurisdiction. The man smiles without humor. Not this part. Not anymore. He raises a hand, revealing a hypodermic injector. Now we can do this the easy way. Maya fires a warning shot past his ear. The sound echoes deafeningly in the confined space. Next one won't miss, she states flatly. The men exchange glances, then spread out, taking tactical positions. They're trained, military or ex-military, and they move with the confidence of those with backup. Don't make this harder than it needs to be, the leader says. You've stumbled into something bigger than you understand. Walk away now, report nothing, and this ends well for everyone. Maya's mind races, assessing options, escape routes, vulnerabilities. 3 against 1, unfamiliar terrain, unknown reinforcements possibly nearby. The odds are poor. Before she can respond, a sound splits the air. The high piercing whinny of a horse, followed by the thunder of hooves. The silver horse bursts into the clearing at full gallop, mane flying, eyes wild. It charges directly at the men, who scatter in surprise and confusion. In the chaos, Maya seizes her chance. She dives behind a boulder as the first shots ring out. The horse wheels and rears, kicking out with powerful hooves, creating a living barrier between Maya and her attackers. One man goes down, clutching his arm. Another retreats toward the hidden entrance. The leader remains firing at the horse, which somehow dodges with unnatural awareness. Maya uses the distraction to circle around, flanking the leader. She takes careful aim. Pain explodes at the base of her skull. Darkness floods her vision as she crumples to the ground. Her last conscious thought is of the silver horse's cry, echoing like a human scream. Pain returns before consciousness, throbbing at the base of her skull, burning across her shoulders, the taste of blood and dust. Maya forces her eyes open. Blinding sunlight, blue sky, red rock. She's hanging, arms bound behind her back, rope around her torso. The ground, jagged rocks and certain death, 30 feet below. Survival training kicks in automatically. Assess, adapt, overcome. The rope suspending her is anchored to something above. Her weight has already caused it to fray against the sharp edge of the cliff. Each movement makes it worse. Her captors are gone. No voices, no footsteps, just the whisper of desert wind and the distant cry of a hawk. They left her to die slowly, a natural accident. No bullet, no evidence of foul play. Just another agent lost to the unforgiving desert. Maya tries to twist to find some purchase against the rock face, but each movement makes the rope groan. Strands begin to snap one by one. The sun beats down mercilessly. Dehydration will take her before the rope breaks if she doesn't find a way out. Her mind struggles to process what happened. The hidden entrance, the armed men, American accents and military training, not cartel, not smugglers. Something much worse. The rope creaks. Another strand snaps. Maya closes her eyes, forcing down panic. Think, focus, survive. A new sound reaches her ears. Hoof beats, soft at first, then clearer. She opens her eyes, tilts her head back as far as possible. The silver horse stands at the cliff edge above her. It lowers its head, studying her with those unnervingly intelligent eyes. Help! Maya croaks, voice cracked from thirst. The absurdity of calling to a wild animal for rescue isn't lost on her, but desperation overrides logic. The horse paws at the ground, then disappears from view. No! Maya cries out, sudden abandonment, more painful than she expected. Then more sounds, more hoof beats. Not one horse, but several. The silver horse reappears at the cliff edge, but now it's not alone. 2 other horses flank it, a chestnut mare and a smaller bay. They move with purpose, positioning themselves around the anchor point of Maya's rope. What happens next defies explanation. The silver horse grips the rope in its teeth and begins to pull. The other horses maneuver their bodies to prevent the rope from slipping over the edge as tension shifts. Slowly, impossibly, Maya feels herself being raised inch by excruciating inch. The rope groans. Sweat streams down her face, Her shoulders scream in agony. Higher. Another inch. Another. Maya's feet scrape against the cliff face, finding a small ledge. She pushes, helping to lift herself, working with the horses in a surreal partnership. With a final heave, she tumbles over the edge onto solid ground, gasping, trembling with exhaustion and disbelief. The other horses retreat a few paces, watching warily. But the silver one stands its ground regarding Maya with what can only be described as expectation. She struggles to her knees. The horse steps closer. In the harsh sunlight, Maya sees something she missed before. Beneath the dirt and sweat staining its coat, a faint pattern is visible on the horse's neck. Not a natural marking, but something deliberate, a military identification, the kind used for horses in specialized units. Recognition hits her like physical blow. Storm, she whispers. The horse, Storm, tosses his head as if in acknowledgement. Nina's horse, her twin sister's mount from Afghanistan, the one reported killed in the same ambush that took Nina's life. Maya reaches out with bound hands, fingers trembling. Storm lowers his head, allowing her touch. The contact sends a jolt through her. Not just the warmth of living flesh, but something deeper. A connection that defies rational explanation. How, she whispers. But there are more urgent questions. How to free herself. How to survive. How to understand what she's stumbled into. Storm kneels beside her, lowering his powerful body in clear invitation. Maya stares, disbelieving. Then with painful effort, she manages to drag herself onto the horse's back. Storm rises carefully, balancing her weight. As the sun begins its descent toward the horizon, the silver horse carries Maya away from the cliff edge, the other horses following, like silent guardians. Behind them, the secrets of Muerte Canyon wait in darkness. Ahead, the desert glows crimson and gold, a wildfire of light guiding them home. But home, Maya now understands, is no longer safe. And the fire that will bring truth to light has only just begun to burn. Dusk paints the Sonoran Desert in deepening shades of purple and crimson. Storm moves with sure-footed precision among the rocks, carrying Maya through a labyrinth of narrow passages unknown to Border Patrol maps. Maya drifts in and out of consciousness. The pain from her bound arms mingles with the throbbing at the base of her skull. Dehydration makes her thoughts fragment like broken glass. In these moments of semi-lucidity, reality blurs with memory. The rhythm of Storm's gait becomes the rhythm of helicopter rotors. The heat of the desert transforms into the heat of an Afghan firefight. In Storm becomes a ghost carrying her through worlds. When full darkness falls, Storm finally stops within a sheltered alcove. Rock walls rise on three sides, providing protection from the wind and concealment from searching eyes. With immense effort, Maya slides from the horse's back, landing hard on her knees. Storm turns, examining her with those unnervingly intelligent eyes. "I need to get free," Maya rasps, struggling against the bonds that have cut into her wrists. Storm moves behind her. Maya feels the gentle pressure of teeth working at the ropes. Methodical, precise, the action of an animal with purpose beyond instinct. When the final strand gives way, pain floods Maya's arms as circulation returns. She gasps, doubling over. Storm nudges her shoulder gently, then moves to the entrance of their shelter. Using the rock wall for support, Maya forces herself to stand. Her tactical training overrides her physical distress. Assess, plan, execute. She needs water, medical attention, communication. As if reading her thoughts, Storm paws at the ground near the alcove's back wall. Maya stumbles over, drops to her knees, and begins digging with her hands where Storm indicated. 6 inches down, her fingers touch something artificial. She uncovers a small metal box, an emergency cache, the kind special forces units place along extraction routes. Inside, water pouches, basic medical supplies, energy bars. No weapons, no communication equipment. Maya drinks sparingly, then cleans and bandages her wounds. The discovery of the cache confirms what she already suspected. This area has been used for covert operations, and Storm knows it intimately. "You're not just any horse, are you?" she whispers. Storm watches her, unblinking. Maya's fingers trace the faint marking on Storm's neck, now clearly visible in the moonlight. A specific pattern lightning bolt crossed with an arrow, the insignia of her sister's unit. "Nina's horse," she murmurs. "But they told us you died with her." Storm remains motionless, only his ears flicking at the sound of Nina's name. Maya leans back against the rock wall, mind racing. If Storm survived, what else about the official report was false? What really happened in that remote Afghan valley where Maya lost her sister, her team, and part of herself? And how does it connect to what's happening here now in this desert on America's border? She studies Storm in the dim light. What are you trying to tell me? The horse offers no answer, but lies down beside her in the sand body, curving protectively around her smaller form. His presence radiates warmth and impossibly understanding. Exhaustion claims Maya at last. She sleeps with one hand resting on Storm's flank, anchoring herself to something that shouldn't exist, but somehow does. Dawn brings clarity and decision. Maya inventories her resources, limited water, no weapon, no communication, and a horse that defies explanation. Against her unknown enemies with government resources, a head injury, and terrain that works against her as much as for her. The sensible action would be to find a way back to base report through official channels trust the system. But the system put her on that cliff to die. Storm rises and shakes off the desert dust. He moves to the alcove entrance, looking back at Maya with clear expectation. You want me to follow you? The horse tosses his head impatient. This is insane, Maya mutters, but she follows. Storm leads her through a series of canyons and washes, following a route that seems random, but gradually brings them toward the border station. Not directly, but to a vantage point on a ridge overlooking it from the east. Maya crouches among the rocks, studying the station through Storm's abandoned binoculars, recovered from her patrol vehicle, which Storm somehow led her to along the way. The station operates as usual. Vehicles come and go. Agents patrol the perimeter. Nothing indicates her disappearance has raised alarms. They don't even know I'm missing, she realizes. Or they don't care. She needs allies, information. But who can she trust? Movement below catches her attention. Elena Vasquez exits the station, walking purposefully toward the vehicle lot. Alone. Maya makes a decision. Using Storm's back as a platform, she signals Elena with a mirror flash, an old Special Forces technique for discreet communication. Elena freezes, then casually scans the ridge. When she spots Maya, her expression remains neutral, but she gives an almost imperceptible nod. 20 minutes later, Elena's vehicle approaches the base of the ridge. Maya meets her there, staying close to the rocks, ready to retreat if necessary. Elena exits her vehicle, eyes widening at the sight of Maya's injuries. What happened to you? Her gaze shifts to Storm, standing a few yards away. And is that... Later, Maya cuts her off. First, tell me what's happening at the station. Has my disappearance been reported? Elena shakes her head. Rodriguez told everyone you radioed in, said you were extending your patrol for another day, following a lead. Hedwinum, Maya's suspicions deepen. Who else knows that's not true? Just Marcus. He's been monitoring communications, noticed there were no actual transmissions from you. He's worried. What about surveillance from Muerte Canyon? Any recordings of what happened? Elena's expression darkens. That's the thing. All the feeds from that area went dark yesterday. Rodriguez said it was equipment failure from the heat. Marcus tried to recover the data, but what? It was wiped. Not corrupted, not damaged. Deliberately erased. When Marcus pointed this out, Rodriguez shut him down. Hard. She hesitates. Maya, what did you find out there? Maya weighs her options. Trust is a luxury she hasn't afforded anyone since Afghanistan. But isolation is a liability now. A covert operation, military-grade equipment, American operators. They tried to kill me when I discovered them. Elena's face pales. Why would American forces be operating secretly on the border, and why try to eliminate Border Patrol? I don't know yet, but it connects to something called Project Mirage. Recognition flashes in Elena's eyes. You've heard of it, Maya states. Elena nods slowly. My father, before he disappeared, he mentioned that name in his last call to me. Said he'd stumbled onto something big. Her voice drops. 3 days later, they told us he was lost in the desert. Body never recovered. The pieces begin connecting in Maya's mind. Your father found what I found, and they eliminated him. But what is it? What's worth killing federal agents over? Maya looks towards Storm, who stands alert watching the horizon. I need to get back into the station. Access the secure servers, find the truth. That's suicide, Elena protests. If Rodriguez is involved, I'm already dead according to them. That gives me an advantage. She fixes Elena with a hard stare. The question is, are you with me? Elena glances at Storm, then back to Maya. My father deserves justice. So do you. She takes a deep breath. I'm with you. Maya nods. I'll need supplies, communications, and access to the station's security protocols. I can handle that. Marcus will help us. Elena hesitates. He cares about what happens to you, Maya, more than you know. Maya dismisses this, focusing on tactics. Meet me at the old water tank on the east boundary at midnight. Bring everything there. As Elena turns to leave, Storm suddenly lifts his head, ears pricked forward. A low nicker escapes him. A warning. Maya signals Elena to freeze. Below, a patrol vehicle appears on the access road, moving slowly, searchlights sweeping the terrain. They're looking for something, Elena whispers. Or someone, Maya responds. Go, now, before they spot your vehicle. Elena nods and slips away. Maya retreats with Storm deeper into the rocks, watching as the patrol passes below. They're hunting her. The question is, how much do they know about what she discovered? Night brings relative coolness to the desert. Maya waits at the abandoned water tank, Storm a silent sentinel beside her. The ancient metal structure, long dry, provides the perfect rendezvous point. Visible enough for navigation, but abandoned enough for privacy. Footsteps approach. Maya's hand moves to a rock she's designated as a makeshift weapon. It's us. Elena's voice comes softly. She emerges from the darkness, Marcus limping beside her. Marcus stops short at the sight of Storm. That's really him, isn't it? Your sister's horse? Maya's eyes narrow. How do you know about my sister, about Storm? I accessed your file when you first arrived, Marcus admits. I do background checks on everyone assigned here. Old habit from my Army intelligence days. Maya studies him with new wariness. Army intelligence? You never mentioned that. You never asked. Marcus moves closer, his prosthetic leg making a soft mechanical sound with each step. Besides, we all have parts of our past we keep buried. He extends a backpack to her. Everything you asked for, plus a few extras. Maya inventories the contents: water, food, a satellite phone, a tablet with downloaded station files, a sidearm with extra ammunition, and a first aid kit. The tablet has everything I could extract about Project Mirage, Marcus explains. It's not much. The files are compartmentalized, encrypted. But I found references to it in budget allocations, personnel transfers, equipment requisitions. What is it? Maya asks, scrolling through the fragments of information. Marcus shakes his head. Something big enough that it has its own black budget. Something that involves cooperation between military units and drug cartels. That's impossible, Elena interjects. Why would our military work with cartels? Resources, access, deniability? Ha. Maya has seen such unholy alliances before in places where official policy and operational reality diverge. What's the objective? That's where it gets strange, Marcus says. Whatever they're doing, it's not drug trafficking. The patterns are all wrong. They're moving something but not drugs. And they're building something in those canyons. Building what? I don't know. But it requires specialized equipment materials that don't appear on any manifest and personnel with high security clearances. Maya processes this information, connecting it with what she witnessed in Muerte Canyon. A hidden facility, using the border's no man's land as cover. Exactly, Marcus nods. And they're willing to eliminate anyone who gets too close. The implications are staggering. Maya looks at Storm, who has remained unnaturally still during this exchange, as if listening and understanding. There's something else you should see, Marcus says, pulling up a file on the tablet. This was buried deep in the system, surveillance footage from 5 years ago. The grainy video shows a man, Elena's father Maya presumes, discovering something similar to what Maya found in the canyon. The video ends abruptly with figures approaching him from behind. Elena turns away, face tight with pain. They've been doing this for years, Maya realizes aloud, using this station as cover. And Rodriguez is part of it, Marcus confirms. But I don't think he's the mastermind. His access level isn't high enough for some of these files. Collins, Maya says, the Homeland Security Director who visits periodically. Marcus nods. His digital fingerprints are all over the classified sections. Maya makes a decision. I need to get back into Morte Canyon, find concrete evidence of what they're doing. Too dangerous, Marcus protests. They'll be watching for you now. Which is why I need a distraction. Maya outlines her plan. Elena will create a data emergency at the station, pulling attention and resources. Meanwhile, Marcus will disable the surveillance systems along Maya's planned route. And if you find the secret facility, then what? Elena asks. Document everything. Get the evidence out through secure channels. People I still trust from my Special Forces days. Marcus looks skeptical. That's a lot of ifs, Maya. And if they catch you again, they won't. She glances at Storm. I have an advantage they don't know about. The horse steps forward as if acknowledging his role. Elena's eyes widen. It's like he understands. Maybe he does, Maya says softly. As they finalize details, Maya notices Marcus watching her with an intensity that goes beyond professional concern. Why are you risking so much to help me? She asks when Elena steps away to check the perimeter. Marcus is quiet for a moment. When I was deployed, my unit was betrayed by one of our own. Intelligence officers sold us out for profit. I was the only survivor. He taps his prosthetic leg. This was my souvenir. The parallel to Maya's experience is unmistakable. The official investigation cleared everyone, Marcus continues. Blamed insurgents. But I knew, and I promised myself I'd never stand by while it happened to anyone else. His honesty creates an unexpected connection. For the first time in years, Maya feels something crack in the wall she's built around herself. My sister, she says the words difficult, was everything I wasn't. Brave without being reckless, kind without being soft. When she died, Maya stopped, surprised by the emotion threatening to surface. You lost half of yourself, Marcus finishes quietly. Maya nods, unable to speak. Storm moves closer, pressing his muzzle gently against her shoulder. The contact anchors her, allows her to regain control. We move tomorrow, she says, voice steady once more. At dawn. First light brings a flurry of activity at Sector 7 station. Elena's manufactured crisis, a supposed breach in the security network, has everyone from Rodriguez down scrambling to assess the damage. Maya positioned on the ridge with Storm watches through binoculars as Marcus gives the signal. 3 flashes from a station window. The surveillance systems along her planned route are now in loop mode, showing empty terrain while she moves through it. Time to move, she tells Storm. The horse seems to understand the stakes. He carries Maya with incredible stealth, using natural features for cover, avoiding loose rocks that might betray their presence. They approach Morte Canyon from a different direction than before. Maya has studied Marcus's maps, identifying what appears to be a secondary entrance to whatever facility lies hidden there. The desert is eerily quiet. No patrols, no movement. Either the distraction is working perfectly, or they're heading into a trap. Storm suddenly stops, ears swiveling. Maya tenses, scanning the terrain. Nothing moves, but Storm refuses to proceed. Trusting the horse's instincts, Maya dismounts and advances on foot, using the rocks for cover. Just beyond the ridge lies a small clearing that appears empty at first glance. But Maya's trained eye catches the details. Disturbed soil, boot prints, and something else. Tiny reflections where there should be none. Surveillance devices, sophisticated enough to be nearly invisible. She retreats to Storm. They've got the area wired. Motion sensors, probably thermal imaging too. Storm paws at the ground, agitated. Maya considers their options. Bypassing the security would be impossible without specialized equipment. Triggering it would bring immediate response. Then Storm does something unexpected. He moves away from Maya toward the open terrain near the sensors. Storm, no! She hisses. The horse ignores her, trotting into the clearing with deliberate visibility. Almost immediately, Maya hears the distant sound of a vehicle engine starting. Storm wheels and gallops back to her. His intention is clear. He's creating a diversion. You're too smart to be real, Maya mutters. She uses the distraction to move along the canyon wall, staying in the shadow of an overhang. The approaching vehicle, Presumably, security personnel responding to Storm's presence provides cover noise for her movement. Maya reaches a section of the canyon wall that doesn't match the surrounding rock. The coloration is slightly off the texture, too uniform, a disguised entrance similar to what she glimpsed before her capture. She examines it carefully, finding no obvious way to open it from outside. But years of tactical training have taught her that every secure entrance has vulnerabilities. The security vehicle is closer now. Maya can hear voices, men calling to each other as they track Storm's movements away from her position. She presses against different sections of the false rock face, searching for pressure points or seams. Nothing yields. Then her fingers find a small irregularity. Not a handle or button, but a scanner of some kind. Biometric, most likely. Maya thinks quickly. The men who captured her would have access. If she could somehow lure one of them. A sharp whistle pierces the air. Storm calling for attention. The security team's voices grow more animated. They're giving chase. Maya retreats to a concealed position, watching as Storm leads the pursuers on a calculated chase, close enough to maintain their interest, far enough to avoid capture. His distraction gives her time to think. Biometric scanners require physical characteristics, fingerprints, retinal patterns, facial recognition. She has none of these. But she does have something else. The emergency cache Storm led her to. Special Forces protocols. What if... Maya pulls out the tablet Marcus provided, accessing the files he extracted. She searches for personnel records associated with Project Mirage, focusing on those with military backgrounds. There, a name she recognizes. Commander James Harlan, former Special Forces, now listed as security consultant for a private contractor working with Homeland Security. Maya knew Harlan from her service days. Not well, but enough to know his reputation. Brilliant, ambitious, morally flexible. The kind of soldier who saw rules as suggestions. If Harlan is involved with Project Mirage, he might have maintained certain practices from their shared Special Forces background, including emergency access protocols. Special Forces units established backdoor access to secure facilities, fail-safes in case biometric systems failed or authorized personnel were incapacitated. These typically involve specific sequences of pressure applied to the scanning mechanism. It's a desperate gamble, but Maya has no alternatives. She returns to the concealed entrance, finds the scanner, and inputs the sequence she remembers from her days under Harlan's command. 3 short pressures, 1 long, 2 short. Nothing happens. Maya tries again, adjusting the timing. The stone face remains impassive. A third attempt with a different sequence from a different operating theater. For a moment, nothing. Then a barely audible click. A seam appears in the false rock, widening to reveal a narrow passage beyond. Maya slips inside just as the security team's voices grow louder, returning from their fruitless chase of Storm. The passage closes behind her, sealing her in darkness. The hidden corridor is dimly lit by recessed lighting along the floor. The air feels processed, cooler, drier than the desert outside. Maya moves silently, all senses heightened. The passage slopes downward, leading deep into the earth beneath the canyon. After approximately 200 meters, it opens into a larger space. Maya freezes in the shadows, taking in the scene before her. It's a massive underground facility, a central hub with multiple corridors branching outward like spokes. Personnel in civilian clothes move purposefully between sections. Equipment hums, monitors display data streams and surveillance feeds. This is no small operation. This is a fully functional covert installation hidden literally beneath the feet of the Border Patrol. Maya activates the camera function on her tablet, documenting everything. She needs evidence, but she also needs to understand what she's seeing. Joseph smiled, the first full smile Ray had seen from the old man. Good answer. The true Guardians never claim ownership, only kinship. As Ray and Elena drove back through the storm, the conversation replayed in Ray's mind. A month ago, he'd been a broken man, waiting for the bank to take his home for life, to finally extinguish whatever embers remained after Sarah's death. Now he was entangled in something larger, a conspiracy involving rare horses, water rights, and ancient connections between animals, land, and people. It should have seemed absurd. Instead, it felt like waking from a long sleep. "What are you thinking?" Elena asked as they navigated the slick Forest Service road. "That I need to call Maya," Ray replied. "She needs to know what's really happening with Blackwood." "Will she believe you about the Sky Runners, the water rights, all of it?" Ray considered the question. Maya was pragmatic rational, committed to working within existing systems. But she was also Sarah's daughter, intuitive at her core, and fiercely protective of what she valued. She'll believe evidence, he said finally. So that's what we'll give her. The storm had passed by the time Ray returned to Northwind Edge, leaving behind a washed-clean world glistening under breaking clouds. The sunset painted the western sky in watercolor strokes of pink and gold, while the eastern horizon deepened to indigo. Ray went straight to the barn, finding Echo alert and waiting as if he'd sensed Ray's return. Kodiak lay nearby, raising his graying muzzle in greeting. "Hey, boys," Ray said softly. "Learned some things today. Big things." "Hallier." Echo approached the stall door, extending his muzzle toward Ray. This time, Ray didn't hesitate to make contact, placing his palm flat against Echo's forehead star. The connection opened immediately, not as visions this time, but as a sense of recognition of homecoming. "You understand now," the sensation seemed to say. Not words, but a knowing that translated itself in Ray's mind. "I'm trying to," Ray murmured aloud. "It's a lot to take in." Echo made the echo voice sound, that resonant thrumming that seemed to vibrate in Ray's chest rather than his ears. This time the response from the distant mountains was clearer, stronger. Not just one answering call, but several overlapping, like harmonies in complex music. They were out there, waiting, watching. Ray spent the evening reviewing the information Elena had provided: geological surveys of the region, hydrological maps showing underground water systems, property records detailing Blackwood's acquisitions. The pattern was clear once you knew what to look for: a systematic campaign to control water access throughout the Eastern Valley. And Northwind Edge, with its 3 converging aquifers, was the missing piece. Around midnight, Ray's phone rang. "Maya, Dad." Her voice was tight with tension. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Why?" "I just got a call from Blackwood's office. There's been a complaint filed against you, alleged animal endangerment regarding that horse. They're sending county animal control to inspect your property tomorrow." Ray's grip tightened on the phone. "That's ridiculous. Echo is healthier than he's ever been." "I know that. But Blackwood's claiming the horse is an endangered species, being kept in inadequate conditions." Maya paused. "Dad, this feels like a setup. I tried to see the actual complaint, but it's been sealed pending investigation." "It's a pressure tactic," Ray said, anger rising. "Blackwood knows I won't sell willingly, so he's looking for leverage." "Maybe, but take it seriously. Clean up the barn, make sure everything looks perfect. I've got a morning flight back to Shadow Creek to help handle this." "Maya, there's more going on here than you realize. Blackwood isn't just after my property. He's buying up land all over the valley to control water rights. And he's been experimenting on horses like Echo for some kind of mineral detection technology." A long silence followed. Then, "Dad, that sounds crazy, I know. But I have evidence: geological surveys, property records, eyewitness accounts. Elena Redhawk has been documenting everything." "The vet," Maya sounded skeptical. "Dad, I want to believe you, but this is starting to sound like a conspiracy theory." "I know." Ray took a deep breath. "Just keep an open mind when you get here, okay? See the evidence yourself before you decide." "Okay, I'll be there by noon tomorrow. Don't do anything until I arrive." After hanging up, Ray checked on Echo one last time, then retired to the house. Sleep eluded him as he considered their options. If animal control came with a seizure order for Echo, Ray had no legal grounds to resist. His financial situation was precarious, his facilities basic at best. Against Blackwood's resources and connections, he was severely outmatched. Unless they could prove what was really happening. Ray rose before dawn, driven by restless energy and growing urgency. In the gray light of early morning, he saddled one of his old trail horses, a gentle mare named Willow that Sarah had ridden for years before her illness, and rode the property boundaries. Echo followed along inside the fence line, moving with increasing confidence as his strength returned. Near the eastern edge of the property, where a small stream cut through a stand of aspens, Echo became particularly alert. His ears pricked forward, and he made that distinctive echo voice sound. Ray dismounted, approaching the fence to watch Echo's behavior more closely. The young horse pawed at the ground, then lowered his head to the earth as if listening. Ray remembered Joseph's words, "All things remember, mountains hold time in their stones." Was Echo hearing the memory of the land, sensing the water flowing deep beneath the surface? Ray pulled out his camera, documenting Echo's behavior, the specific location, the distinctive posture, the intense focus. Then he knelt himself, placing his palm flat against the damp soil. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, like a radio finding signal, something clicked into place. His damaged eye cleared vision, sharpening beyond normal acuity. But instead of seeing the surface world, Ray perceived what lay beneath layers of soil and rock, and deeper still, three distinct channels of water converging in a natural underground chamber directly beneath this spot. The aquifer junction exactly where Elena had theorized it would be. The vision lasted only seconds before fading, leaving Ray breathless with wonder and confirmation. This was what Blackwood wanted. This was what Echo was trying to protect. As Ray mounted Willow to continue his survey, a vehicle approached along the main road. Not the county animal control truck he'd been dreading, but Elena's familiar pickup. She parked by the barn and hurried toward him, her expression urgent. "We have a problem," she called as she neared. "Jonas Creed was spotted at the Horizon Research Facility yesterday. He went in the main entrance and left through a security gate." "Jonas!" Ray's mind flashed back to the night his neighbor had broken into the barn. "Are you sure? Positive?" "My contact on the cleaning staff recognized him." Elena's eyes were troubled. "Ray, I think he's working for them, feeding them information about Echo, about your property." The betrayal stung more than Ray would have expected. Jonas had been a constant presence at Northwind Edge for years, helping with repairs, sharing drinks on the porch, offering quiet support after Sarah's death. The idea that he'd been reporting to Blackwood possibly for years made Ray question everything. "That explains how they knew about Echo so quickly," Ray said, dismounting, "and why Jonas was so interested that night. There's more. My contact overheard a conversation about acquisition preparations scheduled for today. I think they're planning to take Echo, while animal control has you distracted." Cold anger settled in Ray's stomach. "We need to move him. Now. Where they'll check my clinic first." Ray thought quickly. Joseph's place, the basin? They won't look there, and Echo will be with others of his kind. Elena nodded. "I'll call grandfather. But Ray, we can't transport Echo in my truck, too visible. And he's never been trailered properly." "Then I'll ride with him," Ray decided. "Cross-country through the national forest. Blackwood's people will be watching the roads, not the old game trails." "That's 30 miles of rough country," Elena protested. "Echo isn't conditioned for that kind of journey." "He won't be carrying me. I'll lead him alongside Willow." Ray was already moving toward the barn, plans forming rapidly. "We can make it by nightfall if we leave now." While Elena called Joseph, Ray gathered supplies, water, food, basic medical kits for both human and equine emergencies. He strapped his camera securely to his back. Whatever happened in the coming days, he was determined to document it. Echo seemed to sense the urgency, standing calmly as Ray adjusted a simple halter with minimal restraints. Kodiak watched the preparations with anxious eyes, whining softly. "You have to stay, old friend," Ray told the dog, kneeling to scratch behind his ears. "Maya will need you here. Keep an eye on things for me." Kodiak licked his hand once, then settled near the barn door, assuming his guardian position. As they prepared to depart, Elena handed Ray a small leather pouch. "From my grandfather. Protection for the journey." Inside was a small wooden carving of a horse with a star marking worn smooth by handling. "I'll call Maya and explain," Elena added. "She'll be angry, but it's better than letting them take Echo." Ray nodded, suddenly overwhelmed by the magnitude of what they were undertaking. A month ago, he'd been a broken man waiting for the end. Now he was fleeing across wilderness, protecting a horse that might be the key to preserving the ecological balance of an entire valley. "If anything happens to me," he began. "Don't," Elena interrupted. "Just follow the old logging road to Thunder Creek, then head upstream. Grandfather will meet you at Sentinel Rock with fresh horses." Ray mounted Willow, securing Echo's lead rope with a quick release knot. The young horse seemed unusually calm, as if understanding the importance of their journey. "Be careful," Elena said. "Blackwood's people won't hesitate to charge you with horse theft if they catch you." "They can't steal what was never theirs," Ray replied. With a final nod to Elena and a last look at the ranch he might never see again, Ray guided Willow toward the forest edge. Echo followed willingly, moving with surprising confidence for a horse still recovering from trauma. As they disappeared into the trees, Ray heard it, the echo voice rising from Echo stronger than ever before. And from the distant mountains came the response, a chorus of calls, guiding them forward toward sanctuary. The journey had begun. Shadow Creek Valley unfolded beneath them as Ray guided Willow along a ridgeline trail. Echo followed close behind his hooves, finding sure purchase on the rocky path. Though they'd been traveling for hours, the young horse showed remarkable stamina, his breathing, even his movements confident. Ray paused at a natural overlook, allowing both animals to rest while he surveyed their progress. From this height, he could see almost the entire valley, the patchwork of ranches and farms, the ribbon of Shadow Creek itself winding through the landscape, and in the distance the town's clustered buildings, gleaming in the afternoon sun. Somewhere down there, animal control officers were probably searching his empty barn. Maya would be arriving to find him gone with only Elena's explanation and Kodiak's watchful presence to greet her. The thought sent a pang of regret through Ray's chest. He'd promised his daughter he wouldn't do anything impulsive, yet here he was, fleeing across wilderness with a horse that wasn't legally his. Some father I turned out to be, he murmured, scanning the horizon for signs of pursuit. So far, they'd encountered no one. The old logging roads and game trails remained the domain of deer and the occasional elk, not Blackwood's security teams. Echo nudged Ray's shoulder gently, as if sensing his turmoil. The horse's eyes, once dull with trauma, now shone with alert intelligence. "At least you approve," Ray said, running a hand along Echo's neck. "Let's hope Joseph's waiting for us at Sentinel Rock." They continued eastward, the terrain growing increasingly rugged as they approached Thunder Creek. Late autumn had stripped the aspens bare their silver trunks, stark against the deep green of pines. The creek itself roared with recent rainfall, forcing them to travel upstream for nearly a mile before finding a safe crossing. As they emerged on the eastern bank, Echo suddenly tensed ears, swiveling toward the forest ahead. Ray instinctively reached for his camera, switching it on silently. If Blackwood's people had somehow anticipated their route, but it wasn't security guards who emerged from the trees. A horse copper-colored with the distinctive star marking stepped into the clearing. Older than Echo, powerfully built, it regarded them with quiet assessment. One of Joseph's, Ray breathed, remembering the 3 skyrunners at the old man's cabin. The horse, a mare, Ray now realized made the Echo voice sound. Echo responded immediately, the resonant call stronger than Ray had ever heard it. For a moment, the air itself seemed to vibrate with their exchange, an ancient conversation humans could sense, but never fully comprehend. The mare turned and began walking purposefully into the forest. Echo strained at his lead rope, clearly eager to follow. "I guess we found our guide," Ray murmured, releasing Echo and remounting Willow. Rather than trying to control Echo, he simply followed as the 2 skyrunners moved through the forest with instinctive coordination. The route they took wasn't one Ray would have chosen. It veered away from Sentinel Rock, climbing instead toward higher ridges where the trees thinned and rock formations broke through the soil like the bones of the earth. Here the wind carried the scent of snow from distant peaks, and the light took on the crystalline quality that had drawn Ray to these mountains decades ago. Echo and the mare stopped at a natural spring, a clear pool nestled among lichen-covered boulders. As the horses drank, Ray dismounted to fill his own water bottles. The afternoon was waning, shadows lengthening across the landscape. If they didn't reach Joseph's cabin before dark, they'd face a cold night in the open. As Ray knelt by the spring, his damaged eyes suddenly cleared again. This time, instead of seeing underground water systems, he perceived a network of paths converging on this spot, not physical trails, but something more ephemeral, like currents of energy flowing through the landscape. And along each path he sensed, rather than saw, the presence of horses with star markings moving steadily toward this meeting place. The vision faded as quickly as it had come, leaving Ray disoriented. He looked up to find both Echo and the mare watching him intently. "What was that?" he asked aloud, though he expected no answer. "What is this place?" As if in response, Echo dipped his muzzle to the spring, then raised his head, water dripping from his lips. The mare did the same, then both horses turned their gaze to the east, where a massive stone formation rose against the darkening sky. Not Sentinel Rock, but something larger, more imposing. Shadow Spire. Ray realized recognizing the landmark from his early photography expeditions. A natural tower of weathered granite that marked the boundary between the national forest and tribal lands. A place Joseph had mentioned as sacred to his people. Before Ray could consider the implications, the distant sound of helicopter rotors reached them. Echo and the mare tensed, looking skyward as the sound grew louder. Blackwood? Ray guessed quickly, gathering their supplies. We need to move. Now! The forest offered inadequate cover against aerial surveillance. Their best hope was to reach the rocky terrain around Shadow Spire, where overhangs and crevices might conceal them from view. Ray mounted Willow again, but found no need to lead Echo. The young horse stayed close, following the mare, as she picked her way confidently through increasingly rocky terrain. The helicopter appeared briefly above the tree line, then banked southward, not searching randomly, Ray realized, but following a grid pattern. They were being hunted systematically. As they approached Shadow Spire, the landscape changed dramatically. Ancient rock slides had created a maze of boulders and narrow passages, leading to the base of the spire itself. The mare navigated these with practiced ease, Echo following her lead, while Ray struggled to keep Willow calm in the confining spaces. Just as the sun dipped below the western peaks, casting the valley in twilight, they reached a hidden grotto at the spire's base. A small waterfall cascaded down one rock face, feeding a clear pool similar to the spring they'd visited earlier. The space was large enough for several horses, protected from the wind and invisible from the air. The mare stopped, turning to face them. In the gathering darkness, her star marking seemed to glow with an inner light. Echo moved to stand beside her, his own marking beginning to illuminate in response. Ray dismounted, unsure what to do next. Joseph wasn't here to meet them as planned, and night was falling rapidly. The helicopter's sound had faded, but who knew how long before the search resumed. As Ray considered their options, a soft footfall sounded behind him. He turned to find Joseph Redhawk emerging from a nearly invisible crevice in the rock wall. "You found the gathering place," the old man said, his weathered face revealing nothing of his thoughts. "Or rather, it found you." "Your mare led us here," Ray explained. "I thought we were meeting at Sentinel Rock. Plans change when the star horses decide." Joseph approached Echo, examining him with practiced eyes. "He has grown stronger. The land sustains him. Blackwood's people are searching by helicopter. We need to get to your cabin before they find us." Joseph shook his head. "Not my cabin. Not tonight." He gestured to the hidden crevice he'd emerged from. "The old way. Safer." Ray peered into the narrow opening. "A cave system. A passage. Used by my people for centuries. By the star horses for longer." Joseph took Willow's reins. "Your mount will come with me by the surface path. You go with the horses through the old way. Underground, I don't have light, or—" "You have sight," Joseph interrupted, touching his own right eye meaningfully. "And Echo will guide you. The path remembers, and so does he." Before Ray could protest further, Joseph was leading Willow away, disappearing among the boulders with surprising speed for a man his age. Ray found himself alone with Echo and the mare. The grotto growing darker as twilight deepened into night. Echo approached the crevice, looking back at Ray expectantly. The star marking on his forehead now glowed distinctly, casting just enough light to illuminate the narrow opening. "You want me to follow you in there?" Ray asked, anxiety rising. His wilderness experience didn't include cave exploration, and his damaged vision made the prospect even more daunting. Echo made the echo voice sound, not the full call this time, but a softer version, almost coaxing. The mare had already slipped through the opening, her copper coat disappearing into darkness. Ray thought of Maya, of the ranch he might lose, of the life he'd been sleepwalking through since Sarah's death. Then he thought of what lay beneath Shadow Creek Valley, the converging aquifers, the water system sustaining countless lives, human and wild. The balance Blackwood threatened to disrupt for profit. "All right," he said, finally gathering his courage. "Lead on." The crevice opened into a narrow tunnel, just wide enough for the horses to navigate single file. Echo stayed close enough that his glowing star marking provided minimal illumination. The mare moved ahead confidently, her hooves making little sound on the stone floor. As they ventured deeper, Ray expected total darkness. Instead, he discovered that certain minerals in the rock walls emitted a faint phosphorescence, not enough to see clearly, but sufficient to reveal the general path. More surprising was the effect on his injured eye. Instead of the usual shadows and blurring, he found he could perceive the tunnel with unusual clarity, as if the darkness itself carried information his damaged vision could interpret. The passage descended gradually, opening occasionally into larger chambers where underground streams had carved smooth basins into the rock. In one such chamber, Ray stopped in awe, gazing upward at a ceiling studded with crystal formations that caught and amplified the faint phosphorescent light. "It's beautiful," he whispered, the sound carrying through the space in gentle echoes. Echo approached one of the water basins, dipping his muzzle to drink. As his star marking reflected in the still water, Ray felt a sudden shift in perception, the same sensation he'd experienced at the spring above. This time, instead of seeing energy pass across the landscape, he perceived the living history of this underground world. Generations of star horses moving through these passages, following the water's secret paths. Native peoples conducting ceremonies in these chambers, their songs rising to the crystal ceiling. The slow, patient force of water sculpting stone over millennia, revealing the bones of the mountain itself. Layered over these ancient memories were more recent intrusions, the shock of dynamite, the grinding of drilling equipment, the contamination of chemical compounds seeping into pristine waters. Blackwood's operations disrupting patterns established over countless generations. The vision ended abruptly as Echo raised his head, water dripping from his muzzle. The mare had already moved toward another tunnel branching from the chamber. Echo followed, leaving Ray to hurry after them, his mind reeling from what he'd witnessed. The passage began to ascend, the air growing fresher. After what felt like hours of underground travel, Ray sensed they were nearing the surface again. The tunnel narrowed one final time, then opened suddenly into a moonlit canyon. Ray emerged, breathing deeply of the night air, to find Joseph waiting with Willow and another man younger, but with the same sharp features and watchful eyes. "My grandson, Michael," Joseph introduced briefly. "He will take you to safety." Ray looked around, getting his bearings. They had traveled much farther than he'd realized. Shadow Creek Valley lay behind them. Now the mountain range forming a natural boundary between Blackwood's territory and what appeared to be tribal lands. "Where are we exactly?" Ray asked. "Red Hawk Canyon," Michael replied, offering Ray a canteen of water. "Part of the reservation that most outsiders don't know exists. No roads in or out except by horseback or helicopter, and our airspace is restricted." "Blackwood can't follow you here," Joseph added. "The land protects its own." Echo and the mare had moved to a small stream cutting through the canyon floor. Other horses with star markings, at least 5 that Ray could count in the moonlight, had gathered there. Their quiet movements, their occasional soft vocalizations, created an atmosphere of reunion, of homecoming. "They've been waiting," Joseph said, noticing Ray's gaze. "The gathering has begun." Gathering. Every generation, the star horses come together when the land faces threat. They share memories, strengthen bonds. Joseph's voice held a mixture of reverence and concern. "This gathering comes sooner than expected. The danger must be greater than we knew." Michael had been examining Echo with professional interest. "He's young to join a gathering. Usually only mature skyrunners participate. He carries important memories," Joseph explained, "from Northwind Edge, from the water convergence, and from Ray." Michael added, studying Ray with the same intensity he'd shown Echo. "The wound connects them." Ray touched his scarred eye self-consciously. "I still don't understand how my injury relates to Echo's abilities." "Understanding comes with time," Joseph said. "For now, rest. Tomorrow brings new challenges." They made camp at the canyon's edge beneath an overhang that offered shelter from the night wind. Michael produced dried meat bread and coffee from saddlebags, sharing the simple meal as they watched the Skyrunners continue their mysterious communion by the stream. "They're talking," Ray observed, noticing the subtle patterns in their movements, the exchange of echo voice calls. "Planning something." "Deciding," Joseph corrected, "which memories to preserve, which paths to protect. I need to document this, Ray decided, reaching for his camera. If we're going to stop Blackwood, people need to see what's at stake. Neither Joseph nor Michael objected as Ray began photographing the gathering. His photographer's instincts, dormant for years, awakened fully as he captured the Skyrunners in their element. Their star markings luminous in the moonlight, their movements graceful and purposeful, their very presence a testament to survival against incredible odds. As Ray worked, Echo occasionally broke from the group to check on him, as if ensuring his human companion remained nearby. Each time Ray felt that now familiar connection, the sense of memories not his own flowing through their contact, expanding his perception beyond ordinary sight. He's bonded to you, Michael noted after one such interaction. Unusual for a Skyrunner so young. I didn't do anything special, Ray said. Just basic care after he was rescued. Care is special to one who has known only pain, Joseph observed. You gave him safety when he needed it most. Ray thought of his own life after Sarah's death, after his injury, how he'd withdrawn from the world, rejecting help from Maya and others who cared about him. How Echo's arrival had somehow broken through that self-imposed isolation. Maybe we rescued each other, he said quietly. As the night deepened, Ray's thoughts turned to Maya. By now, she would know he'd fled with Echo. What would she think, that he'd finally lost his grip on reality? That he'd chosen a horse over his own daughter? The thought gnawed at him, prompting him to reach for his phone, only to find no signal in this remote canyon. You can call your daughter tomorrow, Michael said, noticing his frustration. We have a satellite connection at the ranger station. Ranger station? I'm a tribal wildlife officer, Michael explained. Monitor the reservation boundaries, track migration patterns, manage conservation programs, including our secret Skyrunner protection efforts. How many people know about them? On the reservation, the elders, a few trusted families. Outside, very few. Elena, of course. 2 researchers at the university who help with DNA analysis, but think they're studying an isolated Mustang variant. Michael's expression hardened. And now Blackwood, though, he doesn't understand what he's found. What exactly is he doing with them? Ray asked. Elena mentioned some kind of bioelectric interface. Michael exchanged glances with Joseph, who nodded permission to continue. From what we've gathered, Horizon developed a system that amplifies the Skyrunner's natural sensitivity to geological formations. They attach sensors to specific points, particularly the star marking, and interpret the neurological responses when the horse encounters different terrains. Like a living mineral detector, Ray said, remembering his earlier conclusion. More sophisticated. The horses don't just detect minerals, they sense instabilities, water systems, fault lines. They can distinguish between deposits that can be safely extracted and those that would disrupt essential systems. Michael's voice reflected professional admiration, despite his evident disgust. It's brilliant technology perverted for profit. And fatal to the horses, Joseph added grimly. The artificial amplification overwhelms their natural abilities, burns out their neural pathways. They die in pain, disconnected from the land memories that define them. Ray thought of Echo's condition when he'd first seen him, the physical malnourishment coupled with that look of profound disconnection. How many have they killed? At least 12 that we know of, Michael replied. Bodies discarded in remote areas made to look like natural deaths. We found 3 near the old mining claims last spring. And now they want Echo back. Ray watched the young horse among his kind, finally experiencing the connection he'd been denied. To continue their experiments. Not just Echo, Joseph said. They want all of them. And the knowledge they carry. The gravity of the situation settled around them like the night itself. This wasn't just about one horse, or even one endangered breed. It was about an ancient relationship between land and its inhabitants, a balance maintained through biological memory, through connections that transcended conventional understanding. So what's our plan? Ray asked finally. I can't stay hidden forever, and Blackwood won't stop looking for Echo. We document everything, Michael said firmly. The Sky Runners, their behavior, their role in maintaining ecological balance, your property's aquifer convergence, Blackwood's illegal testing facilities. Build a case strong enough that not even his political connections can silence it. And we wait, Joseph added, for the Sky Runners to complete their gathering, for them to show us the next step. Ray thought of the vision he'd experienced in the underground chamber, the contrast between ancient harmony and modern disruption. I don't think we have much time, he said. Blackwood's operations are already affecting the water systems. If he gains control of Northwind Edge, then we work quickly, Michael concluded, starting at dawn. As they settled for sleep, Ray found himself unable to rest. He sat at the canyon's edge, camera in hand, watching the Sky Runners continue their mysterious communion under the stars. Echo had rejoined them, his movements increasingly confident as he engaged with the older horses. Witnessing this secret gathering, this expression of an intelligence so different from human understanding, yet so clearly purposeful, Ray felt humbled. For 30 years, he'd photographed the natural world believing he was capturing its essence. Now he realized how much had remained hidden from his lens, the deeper connections, the ancient memories, the quiet consciousness permeating everything. Sarah would have loved this, he whispered to the night air, feeling her absence keenly in this moment of discovery. As if in response, Echo broke from the group again, approaching where Ray sat. The young horse stood quietly beside him, star marking glowing softly in the darkness. Slowly, gently, Echo lowered his muzzle until it touched Ray's scarred eye. The contact sent a current of sensation through Ray's entire body. His vision, not just the damaged eye, but his entire perception expanded beyond anything he'd experienced before. He saw Shadow Creek Valley as if from above, yet simultaneously from within the network of underground streams, the geological formations, the patterns of wildlife movement across the landscape. And through it all, lines of connection, invisible threads, binding everything into a single intricate system. At the center of this system, like a wound in the fabric itself, lay Blackwood's operations, drilling sites, chemical compounds, disrupted water flows. And at Northwind Edge, a pulsing convergence of three major aquifers, the heart of the valley's water system. The vision shifted, showing Ray something unexpected, a gathering of people at his ranch. Maya standing on the porch confronting Preston Blackwood. Elena beside her folders of documents in hand. Local reporters, cameras, microphones. And Kodiak, faithful guardian, standing watchful at Maya's side. They were fighting back, without him. The vision faded as Echo broke contact, leaving Ray gasping with the intensity of what he'd witnessed. The young horse made a soft sound, not the Echo voice, but a gentler vocalization, almost questioning. I see it, Ray whispered. I understand now. We have to go back. Dawn broke clear and cold over Red Hawk Canyon, painting the stone walls in hues of amber and gold. Ray was already awake, reviewing his camera footage and planning their next move with Michael and Joseph. Maya's confronting Blackwood at my ranch, Ray explained urgently. Today, I think, we need to get back there. You saw this? Joseph asked, his expression revealing nothing. When Echo touched me last night, a vision clearer than any before. Ray looked to the older man for understanding. Is that even possible, seeing current events, not just memories? The star horses don't experience time as we do, Joseph replied. Past, present, future all exist within the circle of memory. Echo showed you what is happening now because you needed to know. Michael was more practical. Getting back to Shadow Creek won't be easy. Blackwood's people are patrolling all access points to the valley. There's another way, Joseph said. The same passages we used to come here. They emerged near Northwind Edge. Ray considered the underground journey longer in reverse and more challenging without knowing the route. Can you guide us? Joseph shook his head. My place is here with the gathering, but Echo knows the way. He came through those passages as a foal before Blackwood's men captured him. You expect me to follow a horse through miles of underground tunnels? Ray couldn't keep the skepticism from his voice. Alone. Not alone, came Elena's voice from the canyon entrance. She stood beside a sturdy mountain pony dressed for wilderness travel, her medical bag slung across her shoulder. I'll go with you. Elena, Ray exclaimed. How did you find us? Grandfather sent word, she replied, embracing Joseph briefly. The old ways still work when cell phones don't. What's happening at the ranch? Ray asked immediately. Is Maya there? Elena nodded. She arrived yesterday to find you gone and animal control searching the property. When they found nothing to justify seizing Echo, she started asking the right questions. I showed her our research on the aquifers on Blackwood's pattern of acquisitions, and she believed it. Your daughter is stubborn, but she's not blind. When she saw the evidence, Elena smiled slightly. Let's just say her legal training found a new target. She's filed an emergency injunction against Horizon's development plans, citing potential damage to protected water systems. Relief washed through Ray. Maya hadn't given up on him after all. Blackwood's furious, Elena continued. He's threatened countersuits regulatory actions, everything he can think of. But Maya contacted her environmental law colleagues, and they've brought in federal water quality inspectors. The story's gaining traction with local media. Ugh, which is exactly why we need to get back, Ray said firmly. With echo and documentation of the Skyrunners, concrete proof of what Blackwood's really doing. Michael had been studying maps of the region. If you take the underground passages, you could reach Northwind Edge by late afternoon. But you'll need proper equipment this time, lights, supplies, navigation tools. I brought everything we might need, Elena said, indicating several packs attached to her pony, including camera equipment Maya said you'd want. The mention of Maya's thoughtfulness touched Ray deeply. Despite everything, his stubbornness, his reckless decisions, she still understood what mattered to him. As they prepared for the journey, Ray approached the gathered Skyrunners. Echo stood among them, engaged in what appeared to be a final exchange. Heads close together, occasional soft vocalizations passing between them. Will he come with us? Ray asked Joseph. Or is his place here now with his kind? His journey isn't finished, Joseph replied. He still carries memories that must be shared where they're needed most. As if hearing his name, Echo broke from the group and approached Ray. The young horse's transformation was remarkable. His posture confident, his gaze direct, his presence somehow more substantial than it had been just days before. The gathering had changed him, awakening something dormant in his spirit. Ray reached out, touching Echo's star marking gently. The connection opened immediately, but differently than before. Instead of visions or memories, Ray felt a sense of shared purpose, of mutual understanding. They were partners now, bound by something deeper than ownership or even guardianship. He's ready, Joseph said, watching their interaction. And so are you. The entrance to the underground passages lay hidden behind a waterfall at the canyon's eastern end. Michael provided detailed maps of the route, though he warned they would be of limited use in the complex tunnel system. Trust Echo, he advised. His memory of the path is more reliable than any map. As final preparations were made, Joseph approached Ray with a small leather pouch. For protection, the old man said, placing it in Ray's hand. Inside was a carved stone in the shape of a horse's head, the star marking represented by a small crystal embedded in the forehead. A memory stone, Joseph explained. Carved by my ancestors when the star horses first formed their bond with our people. It remembers the old agreements, the balance that must be maintained. Ray closed his fingers around the stone, feeling its smooth contours, its surprising warmth. Thank you for everything. Thank me by protecting what matters, Joseph replied. The water, the horses, the memories. With final farewells exchanged, Ray and Elena prepared to enter the passage. Echo moved ahead confidently, his star marking beginning to glow faintly as they passed behind the waterfall and into the dimness beyond. Elena's pony followed reluctantly, eyes rolling at the unfamiliar surroundings. Ready? Elena asked, switching on a powerful headlamp. Ray took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the memory stone in his pocket, the responsibility of what lay ahead. Ready, he confirmed. Let's go home. The journey through the underground passages was both easier and more challenging than Ray had anticipated. Easier because they had proper lighting this time, and Elena's knowledge of geology helped navigate confusing junctions. More challenging because they moved against the natural flow of the tunnels climbing upward, where water naturally sought to descend. Echo led them unerringly, pausing occasionally at particularly difficult sections to ensure Elena's pony could manage the terrain. The star marking on his forehead glowed consistently now, providing an additional point of reference in the dim passages. It's bioluminescence, Elena explained when Ray commented on the phenomenon, a physical characteristic unique to skyrunners. Intensifies during periods of heightened connection to other horses or to specific landscapes. Science meeting tradition. Ray observed, remembering her earlier comment about different languages describing the same truth. Exactly. Elena negotiated a narrow section of tunnel, one hand steadying her nervous pony. My grandfather would say, Echo's spirit is shining. A geneticist would talk about specialized cells producing enzymatic reactions. Both are true. They stopped to rest in one of the larger chambers, where crystal formations caught their headlamp beams and scattered light across the darkness. Ray took the opportunity to photograph these underground wonders, knowing such images might never have been captured before. This whole system must extend for miles under the mountains, he marveled. Has anyone mapped it completely? Not with modern methods, Elena replied. My people have oral traditions about the passages, which ones lead, where which connect to surface landmarks. But there are sections no human has entered in living memory. Chiwa yet Echo knows the way, Ray said, watching the young horse drink from a clear underground pool. Memory isn't just human, Elena reminded him. The Skyrunners have been using these passages for generations. The knowledge is passed down encoded in their very being. As they continued their journey, the tunnels gradually shifted character, becoming less natural and showing occasional signs of human modification. Ancient hand-carved steps, rough pillars supporting unstable sections, even primitive pictographs etched into the stone walls. My ancestors, Elena explained when Ray paused to examine these markings, recording their relationship with the star horses with the underground waters. One series of images particularly caught Ray's attention: figures representing horses and humans standing together before what appeared to be flowing water, their forms interconnected by carved lines. The first agreement, Elena translated, when my people promised to protect the waters, and the star horses promised to guide them to safe places away from water that should remain undisturbed. The same balance Blackwood threatens now, Ray said, photographing the ancient images. They pushed on, increasingly aware of time passing. If they were to reach Northwind Edge by late afternoon, they couldn't afford extended stops no matter how fascinating the discoveries. The passages gradually angled upward more steeply, the air growing fresher. Echo's pace quickened, his familiarity with the route evident in his confident movements. Finally, after what felt like hours of steady climbing, they reached a section where daylight filtered through cracks in the stone ceiling. We must be close to the surface, Elena said, checking her map. According to this, we should emerge somewhere on the eastern edge of your property. Echo had stopped, his attention focused on a narrow fissure in the stone wall, not the direction of the visible daylight, but a different path entirely. He made a soft sound, looking back at Ray expectantly. He wants us to go that way, Ray said, trusting the horse's instincts. There must be a reason. The fissure opened into a tunnel they hadn't traversed on their outward journey, narrower, less worn by water flow. As they followed it, Ray noticed the rock composition changing, becoming darker with strange streaks of metallic material running through the walls. This doesn't look natural, Elena observed, examining the rock face with her headlamp. These are drill marks, recent ones. Blackwood, Ray guessed, mining explorations. Before Elena could respond, the tunnel widened suddenly into a large artificial chamber. Their headlamps revealed metal support structures, scientific equipment, computer monitoring stations, all apparently abandoned in haste. Coffee cups still sitting on workbenches, papers scattered across floors. What is this place? Ray breathed, already raising his camera to document the discovery. Some kind of research facility, Elena replied, moving carefully among the equipment. Look at these. She indicated a row of stalls with reinforced metal bars, each equipped with complex monitoring systems. Within each stall, metal plates were embedded in the floor, the size and shape matching a horse's hooves perfectly. Testing stations, Ray realized a chill running through him. For the Sky Runners. Echo had stopped at the entrance to the chamber, refusing to enter. His posture was tense, ears flattened against his head, clear signs of fear and traumatic memory. He was here, Ray said, understanding immediately. This is where they experimented on him. Elena was examining computer monitors, many still active, despite the facility's abandoned appearance. These are geological survey results, she said. Incredibly detailed maps of underground formations across the entire valley. She clicked through several screens. And these neural response patterns, bioelectric readings. They were using the horses to identify specific mineral deposits, water sources, geological fault lines. Find anything related to Northwind Edge, Ray urged, continuing to photograph the facility methodically. Proof that Blackwood knows about the aquifer convergence. Elena searched through digital files while Ray documented the physical evidence, the testing stalls, the monitoring equipment, the obvious signs of rapid evacuation. Whatever had caused Blackwood's team to abandon this facility, they hadn't had time to remove sensitive materials. Here, Elena called finally, Project Watershed, files specifically about your property. The monitor displayed detailed underground mapping of Northwind Edge, highlighting the 3 converging aquifers Joseph had described. Notes indicated estimated flow rates, water quality assessments, and potential access points for what was labeled controlled extraction. They're planning to tap all 3 aquifers, Elena said grimly, not just for Blackwood's developments, but for sale to outside municipalities. They could drain the entire system within a decade. That would devastate the valley, Ray said. Not just my property, but every ranch, every farm, every wild space dependent on that water. Exactly, and look at this. Elena pulled up another file, financial projections, showing potential profits from water rights sales in a region increasingly affected by climate change. The numbers were staggering, making land development seem like a minor sideline to Blackwood's true objective control of the most precious resource in the West. We need to copy everything, Ray said immediately. Every file, every image, every piece of evidence. As Elena worked to download the data to portable drives she'd brought, Ray continued photographing the facility, ensuring they had visual documentation of the physical setup. Echo remained at the entrance, watchful but unwilling to enter the space where he'd suffered. Almost done, Elena announced after several tense minutes. But Ray, there's something else you should see. Files about Echo specifically. The monitor displayed medical records, genetic analyses, and performance evaluations for subject SK27, Echo's designation in Blackwood's research program. The data confirmed what they'd already suspected: Echo's exceptional sensitivity to geological formations, his unusually pure Skyrunner lineage, and most disturbingly, the neural damage inflicted by repeated testing. They knew they were killing him, Ray said, anger rising as he read through the clinical notes. They documented his deterioration as if he were nothing but a piece of equipment failing under stress. But there's something they didn't understand, Elena added, pointing to notes flagged with question marks. Echo's interactions with you, your eye injury. They were recording unusual results after Echo began responding to your presence, even from a distance. That's part of why they want him back so badly. You triggered something in him they can't explain. Ray thought of the connections he'd experienced with Echo, the visions, the moments of clarity in his damaged vision. Not injuries connecting somehow, but something deeper, a resonance between different forms of perception, different ways of understanding the world. We need to get this information to Maya, he said, to the authorities, before Blackwood realizes what we found. As Elena finished downloading the files, a low rumbling sound reverberated through the chamber. Dust sifted down from the ceiling, and the metal support structures creaked ominously. That felt like blasting, Elena said, alarm evident in her voice. Recent blasting close by. They're still operating, Ray realized. This was just one facility abandoned when Echo escaped. They must have others. Another rumble, stronger this time. Small rocks dislodged from the ceiling, clattering across the metal equipment. We need to get out, Elena said urgently, grabbing the storage drives and her pack. If they're using explosives nearby, these tunnels could become unstable. They hurried back to where Echo waited, the horse's anxiety now making perfect sense. He led them away from the abandoned research facility, moving with increased urgency as more tremors shook the passages. Elena's pony followed, nervously snorting at each new vibration. The tunnels began to slope upward more steeply Echo's pace, leaving them breathless as they climbed toward the surface. Light appeared ahead, not the filtered daylight they'd seen earlier, but a clear opening to the world above. Almost there, Ray encouraged as they made the final ascent. They emerged into late afternoon sunlight, blinking as their eyes adjusted after hours underground. Ray immediately recognized their location, the eastern corner of Northwind Edge near the small stream, where Echo had shown such interest during their property survey. The very spot where Ray had first perceived the aquifer convergence. In the distance, the ranch house was visible, and beyond it, a gathering of vehicles, police cars, news vans, a black SUV that could only be Blackwood's. People moved around the front yard, though they were too far away to identify individuals. Maya's confrontation with Blackwood, Ray guessed. Just like in my vision. Then we'd better hurry, Elena said. With what we've found, we can end this right now. Another explosion sounded closer, this time, not underground, but from the direction of the property line Ray shared with Jonas Creed. Smoke rose from a wooded area, and the distant sound of heavy machinery echoed across the afternoon stillness. They're starting operations already, Ray said in disbelief, before the legal issues are even resolved. Blackwood must be desperate, Elena replied. If he loses the injunction Maya filed, his entire plan is at risk. He's rushing to establish facts on the ground. Echo's attention was fixed on the explosion site, his posture alert rather than fearful. He made the Echo voice sound that resonant thrumming call, and to Ray's surprise, an answer came almost immediately from the direction of the ranch house. Another Skyrunner? Ray asked in disbelief. Impossible, Elena began. Unless... Before she could finish, Echo was moving, trotting purposefully toward the ranch. Ray and Elena followed, leading the tired pony as quickly as they could manage after their long underground journey. As they crested the final rise overlooking the ranch yard, the scene came into full view. Maya stood on the porch facing Preston Blackwood, who was flanked by security personnel and a man in an expensive suit, likely a lawyer. Several uniformed officers stood nearby, along with what appeared to be county officials. News crews had positioned themselves to capture the confrontation cameras rolling, and at Maya's feet, positioning himself protectively between her and Blackwood, stood Kodiak. The old dog's stance was vigilant, unwavering despite his age. It was he who had answered Echo's call, not with an echo voice, but with a deep, resonant bark that carried across the property. Guardians recognize each other, Elena murmured. Across species, across distances. Echo quickened his pace, and Ray made no attempt to hold him back. The young horse moved with purpose, now his mission clear. As Echo entered the ranch yard, heads turned, conversations stopped, and cameras swiveled to capture the dramatic arrival. Echo, Maya exclaimed, her professional composure briefly giving way to relief, then seeing Ray and Elena following behind. Dad, you're okay. Blackwood's reaction was less enthusiastic. His face hardened as he recognized not just Echo, but the significance of Ray's return. Holloway, he said coldly, trespassing on my research facility is a serious offense, as is theft of proprietary technology. You mean Echo, Ray replied, approaching the confrontation with camera in hand and evidence drives in his pocket. The living being you tortured for profit. The endangered species your people nearly killed with their experiments. These are serious allegations, Blackwood's lawyer interjected smoothly, completely unfounded and potentially libelous. Actually, Maya said, her legal training evident in her precise tone, we have substantial evidence supporting these claims, including testimony from former Horizon employees about unethical treatment of rare horses. But now we have more, Ray added, reaching Elena's side and accepting the drive she handed him. Direct evidence from Blackwood's underground research facility. Files documenting their use of Skyrunners to map water resources. Plans to drain the aquifers under Northwind Edge. He turned to the news crews, making sure they were capturing every word. They're not after land, they're after water, the most valuable resource in the West. And they don't care who or what they destroy to control it. Blackwood maintained his corporate calm, though his eyes flashed with anger. These are desperate fabrications from a man facing bankruptcy and eviction. Mr. Holloway has been suffering from mental health issues since his accident, as his reckless behavior with the horse clearly demonstrates. Let the evidence speak for itself, Ray countered, holding up the drives. Everything is here: the testing protocols, the health deterioration reports, the water extraction plans, plus photographs I took personally of the facility where they conducted their experiments. One of the county officials, a woman Ray recognized as the water commissioner, stepped forward. I'd like to see this evidence immediately. If there are threats to our aquifer systems, that falls under my jurisdiction. And mine, added a man in a Fish and Wildlife Service uniform, particularly if endangered species are involved. Blackwood's composed facade began to crack. This is a coordinated attack on legitimate business operations. My company has all necessary permits for our development activities. But not for underground research facilities, Maya pointed out. Not for experimental procedures on endangered animals. And certainly not for the blasting that's happening right now at the property line. Blasting that violates the temporary injunction issued this morning. On cue, another explosion sounded in the distance. The government officials exchanged alarmed glances. I know nothing about any blasting, Blackwood insisted, though his expression suggested otherwise. Throughout this exchange, Echo had moved steadily closer to the center of the confrontation. Now he stood directly before Blackwood, his star marking visible to everyone present. His gaze fixed on the man who had authorized his suffering. For a brief moment, something passed between them, a recognition perhaps, or a judgment. Blackwood took an involuntary step backward. That horse is company property, he said, his voice lacking its usual authority. A research subject that escaped containment. He has a name, Ray said, moving to Echo's side. Echo, and he's not property. He's a living link to the history of this land, to the waters that sustain all of us. Your research proved that much at least. Echo made the echo voice sound, then not directed at distant mountains this time, but concentrated in the ranch yard itself. The resonant call seemed to vibrate in the very ground beneath their feet, creating a moment of absolute stillness as everyone present felt its strange power. Then from the direction of the forest came an answering call, and another, and another. All eyes turned toward the tree line as three sky runners emerged from the shadows, powerful, mature horses with luminous star markings. They moved with deliberate purpose toward the gathered humans. Impossible, Blackwood breathed. We tracked every specimen. There weren't any left in the wild. You were wrong, Ray said simply. They've always been here, watching, waiting, remembering. As the adult sky runners approached, Ray recognized the copper mare who had guided them in the mountains. Joseph had sent reinforcements in his own way to ensure the confrontation ended justly. The news crews were filming frantically now, capturing the unprecedented gathering. Government officials watched in amazement as the Skyrunners formed a semicircle behind Echo, their presence transforming what had been a human legal dispute into something more profound, a moment of reckoning between different ways of valuing the natural world. I think we've seen enough, the water commissioner said finally. Mr. Blackwood, I'm ordering an immediate cessation of all Horizon operations, pending full investigation. This includes the current blasting, which violates multiple regulations. And I'm implementing emergency protections for these horses under the Endangered Species Act, the Fish and Wildlife Officer added. Any attempt to capture or harm them will result in federal charges. Blackwood's face contorted with barely contained rage. You have no idea what forces you're interfering with. The economic potential is not worth the destruction of irreplaceable resources, Maya interrupted. That's the legal and ethical reality you're facing, Mr. Blackwood. Your choice now is how gracefully you accept it. For a tense moment, it seemed Blackwood might still resist. Then, with a curt nod to his security team, he turned toward his vehicle. This isn't over, Holloway, he said as he passed Ray. Not by a long shot. Actually, I think it is, Ray replied. Echo made sure of that. As Blackwood's SUV pulled away, the gathered officials moved toward Ray, Elena, and Maya, eager to examine the evidence they'd uncovered. The Skyrunners remained at the edge of the activity, watchful, but no longer hiding their secret existence, now documented by news cameras, their protection assured by federal authorities. Maya embraced Ray fiercely. "I thought you'd lost your mind," she admitted, "when Elena told me where you'd gone, what you believed." I know it sounds impossible," Ray began. "Not anymore." Maya glanced at Echo, who had moved to greet Kodiak with gentle curiosity. "I've seen too much these past 2 days to doubt. The aquifer evidence alone was compelling, but then the former employees came forward with stories about the horse experiments." "You believe me," Ray said, relief washing through him. "About all of it." "I believe in evidence," Maya replied with a slight smile. "But I also believe in you, Dad. I should have remembered that sooner." As the activity around them organized into formal statements, evidence cataloging, and preliminary investigations, Ray found a quiet moment to check on Echo. The young horse stood with the other Skyrunners, engaged in what appeared to be another exchange heads, close occasional soft vocalizations passing between them. "They're deciding," Elena said, joining Ray in his observation. "About what? About Echo's future. About all their futures now that their existence is known." Ray felt a pang of loss, recognizing the inevitable. "He'll go with them, won't he? Back to the high country, to Joseph's protection?" "That's for Echo to decide," Elena replied. "The bond between you is unique. It might not end just because the immediate danger has passed." As if hearing his name, Echo broke from the group and approached Ray. The transformation in the young horse was complete. His body healthy, his spirit strong, his presence somehow more substantial than it had been just weeks before. He was no longer the trembling, traumatized creature Ray had impulsively purchased at auction, but a being coming into his full power. Ray reached out, touching Echo's star marking gently. The connection opened immediately, but differently than before. Instead of disjointed visions or fragmented memories, Ray experienced a sense of wholeness, of completion. The circle closing the story, finding its proper conclusion. "Thank you," the sensation seemed to say. Not words, but a knowing that translated itself in Ray's mind. "Thank you," Ray replied aloud, "for everything you've shown me." Echo made the echo voice sound one last time, soft, meant just for Ray. Then, with a final look that seemed to contain all they'd experienced together, he turned and rejoined the other Skyrunners. Together, the four horses moved toward the forest edge, their star markings catching the late afternoon light. They paused at the tree line, looking back at the humans still gathered in the ranch yard. Then, with a synchronicity that defied ordinary equine behavior, they disappeared into the shadows, returning to the wild places where they'd survived against all odds. Ray watched them go, feeling not loss but completion. Echo had come into his life for a purpose: to wake him from grief's slumber, to reconnect him to the world, to show him that healing was still possible. That purpose fulfilled, the young horse could now follow his own destiny among his kind. "Will we see them again?" Maya asked, coming to stand beside her father. "I think so," Ray replied. "Not as often, perhaps, not as closely, but they're part of this land now, publicly recognized, legally protected. They'll find their balance between connection and freedom." As the sun began to set over Shadow Creek Valley, casting long shadows across land that would now remain undeveloped, Ray felt something he hadn't experienced in years: a sense of rightness, of belonging, of purpose beyond mere survival. His camera felt natural in his hands again as he photographed the evening light on the mountains, the officials examining maps of the aquifer systems, Elena explaining Skyrunner biology to fascinated researchers. He was seeing clearly again, not just through his uninjured eye, but through the damaged one as well, which now perceived connections and patterns invisible to ordinary sight. Echo's gift. Echo's echo. Maya approached with a county official who had paperwork about the ranch's status. "Good news," Angie said. "With the evidence of aquifer damage, they're considering Northwind Edge for protected status as a critical watershed area. Federal grants could help maintain it while keeping the land itself intact. No more foreclosure threats, not if you agree to the conservation arrangement." Maya smiled. "You'd essentially become the steward of the property, paid to protect what you already love." Ray signed the preliminary papers without hesitation. After everything that had happened, the thought of Northwind Edge evolving from personal sanctuary to public trust felt right. a natural progression, a way of honoring connections that extended beyond individual ownership. As the officials and news crews finally departed, leaving Ray, Maya, and Elena alone at the ranch house, Kodiak took up his customary position on the porch, watchful even in his old age. The faithful dog had played his own role in the day's events, standing guard over Maya when Ray couldn't be there. "What will you do now?" Elena asked as they sat together, watching stars appear in the deepening twilight. "Besides managing a protected watershed, that is." Ray considered the question, feeling possibilities opening where before there had been only a narrowing path. "Take photographs again. Real ones. Document the Skyrunners discreetly from a distance. Tell their story to those who need to understand what we almost lost. And maybe visit your daughter occasionally," Maya suggested with a smile that reminded Ray painfully beautifully of Sarah. "That too," he agreed, "if you'll visit here sometimes as well." "I already called my firm," Maya admitted. "I'm taking a leave of absence. Shadow Creek Valley needs an environmental attorney who understands what's at stake. Who better than someone with family history here?" Ray felt a completeness he hadn't experienced since Sarah's death. Not happiness exactly, but wholeness. The circle broken by loss beginning to mend itself through new connections, new purposes. As darkness settled fully over the valley, a sound carried from the distant mountains, the echo voice, faint but unmistakable. Echo's call joined now by others, creating harmonies that resonated across the landscape. Ray closed his eyes, listening with more than his ears. The call spoke of freedom, regained, of memories preserved, of balance restored. It spoke of connections that transcended species, that linked past and present, that unified separate beings in common purpose. An echo of what had been, a calling to what could be. And in the quiet ranch house at Northwind Edge, with his daughter beside him and friends around him, Ray Holloway listened to the message carried on the night wind and answered it in his heart.